it's only right. Because it's okay. I do it all the time. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you for your concern. And thank you. We were talking about gratitude. We're still in the middle of talking about gratitude and the importance of gratitude. We spoke about last time that gratitude is the oxygen of life. So I appreciate your appreciation and your expressions of gratitude, all of you. And I have to tell you that I got the ultimate compliment. Somebody said to me, we're so happy that you're here, and because, and I was waiting to hear why, and then it reminded me, as the person was speaking, reminded me of my daughter-in-law in England, Rivkala, told me that she has a adorable little girl, Suri. Any Suri in my family is adorable because it's my mother's name. So above and beyond all the others, so she told me that she was going through Suri's backpack. Maybe it was before Pesach, she was cleaning it out. And she comes across a notebook, and the students were asked to tell the teacher what they would like to be, what they would like. This goes in and out, doesn't it? I think it's better without? Okay, so what they would like to be, the teacher asked when they grow up. And she sees Suri, she looks to see very anxiously, what is it that her daughter, her little girl, I mean, she must have been 6 years old, what does she aspire to? And Suri wrote, I want to be normal. When I grow up, I want to be normal. So when this person was telling me how much she appreciates my being here, and she said to me, because you're normal. So, you know, it's a wonderful compliment. So in case maybe some of you didn't know beforehand, but just know now, I'm normal. I'm normal. Okay. Well, I was thinking this morning, I shared this with some group, I don't know which, but, you know, we make brachos all day long. We say a blessing. I see some of you have drinks, and of course the first thing in the morning, when we get out of bed, we say our Modeh, then most of us go for coffee. And, you know, a lot of people will say that they don't feel human until they don't talk to them until they have their first cup of coffee. So this circulated, and I remember who sent it to me, but this, I don't know who composed it, but it said a person wakes up in the morning, makes himself a cup of coffee, he puts the bitter coffee in a mug, adds to it the sweet sugar, pours in the boiling water, and adds some cold milk. A cup full of contrasts, hot, cold, bitter, sweet. Then he says, Ribbon Shalom, I don't know how my day will be, bitter, sweet, hot, cold, but one thing I know for sure, it will be Shahakol Nia Bidvaro. It will be, as you say, it'll be. And that's how a Jew should start his or her morning, knowing that Hashem will pick just what's right for him out of the sea of contrasts. Shahakol Nebedvara means it will be according to his word. And that's what all this contrast, but we leave it up to the Almighty. Like I mentioned before, I love the saying, we don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future. And that's what we begin with, that acknowledgement at the beginning of the day. So gratitude, I wanted to talk a little bit more about gratitude. I just remembered, and maybe I wrote about it in the future Army article, but anyway, I was remembering that when I was I was a newlywed, and I remember exactly where I was standing in the kitchen at the time, and my husband had a cousin distant cousin who lived in London. And she was this, regal, reserved, beautiful woman. And she walked into the kitchen, and she came over to me, and, I expected her to be very formal, as the English usually are. And all of a sudden, she kind of disintegrated into tears. And I was so young, and I didn't know what to make of it. I mean, she was much older than I was, and she's a Chaiki. Her name was Chaiki. And she said to me, I want you to hear me out. She said, I was married to this wonderful, wonderful man. His name was Mendele. Mendele was wonderful to me, and we had such a beautiful marriage. And one day, he just died suddenly. And she said, and of course I was grief-stricken, but she said I could deal with my grief. The only thing that I really can't deal with is the fact that I always expected him to be there. Of course he's going to be there tomorrow. He didn't have any, health issues, any dramatic health issues. So of course he was going to be there tomorrow. I never took the time to tell him how much he meant to me. In all those years, when he was so wonderful, expecting that he always would be there, I never took the time to tell him how much I appreciated, how much I loved him. And she says, that's what I can't live with. That's what I can't come to terms with. And she said, and just remember that. Your loved ones, whoever you really care about, whether it's a husband, whether it's a cousin, whether it's a friend, whoever it is in our life that makes a difference to us, and we begin to take them for granted, that we stop and we make sure that we tell them how much they mean to us. And I remember reading, I don't know if how many are familiar with the author who wrote, Richard Carlson. He wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And he also wrote a wonderful book called You Can Be Happy Again. And Richard Carlson was lecturing in some city, and he was in the motel room by himself. He was on this tour without his wife. And he was 45 years old and did not wake up in the morning. And his wife wrote a book called, I think it's called One Day to Live. It's a little book, and in it she talks about this very same thing. She talks about the fact that nobody has any guarantees for tomorrow, and that we take care of those things today. That make sure that the things that are important in our lives and people who are important in our lives, that we acknowledge to them how much they mean to us. And some other person wrote, and they said, if we look at people, and this is kind of a depressing thought, but it gets the message across. If you look at everybody around us as though they were going to live only till midnight, how would we interact with them? What would we want to say to them? What would we want to take care of? So it's not different than what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says, Shuv yom echad lifnei misascha. Come back, do tshuva, return, take care of things one day before one dies. And the Mishnah asked the question, who is going to give us notice? Who's going to tell us what day that would be? And they say that's just the point. We never know. So important things in life we have to take care of today, because we never know what the next day brings. Shuv yom echad lifnei misascha. I happen to have a daughter, one of my daughters actually. Maybe the sensitivity came about because she became a young widow at the age of 42. I've spoken about her before. She's a magnificent young woman. But she has this phenomenal approach to things. As soon as somebody does something nice for her, Bela sends a card. She sends a note saying, thank you so much, I really appreciate what you did. And when I was thinking about it, I said, that really did start after she lost Eliezer. And maybe that really brought to the forefront of her mind how important it is to acknowledge people in our lives who are important to us. So, okay, so let's see a couple of other things that I want to finish up with in terms of gratitude. The things, the people, of course, gratitude, somebody suggested, and it's so true. If anyone want to cultivate gratitude, all we need to do is take a little child out for a walk. You know, you take a little child out, and the child notices things that we've seen a million times and never noticed. Dandelions along the way that we consider a weed, and little kids get so excited. Look at this beautiful flower, and look here, look there, mommy, or Bobby, look how nice this is. And we say, what? We've passed this way a million times and never noticed these things. So we want to cultivate gratitude. Taking a child with us is a wonderful way to do that. They talk about leaving little notes, love-filled sticky notes for your family and friends in all different places. You know how nice it would be? You put your head in your pocket and all of a sudden you get a note. Get a note from a friend, get a note from a spouse, get a note that says, oh, I love you so much, I care about you, have a good day. Some mothers, when they pack their children's lunches, or grandmothers, they'll put a little note there and how delighted a child is to find it. And people, this is very interesting, you know, people, they say to you, how are you? Or you say to them, how are you? What would happen if everybody really stopped to tell you how they are? It would be like, a full-time job just to get through the day with one person if they really shared how they are. And we don't really expect anybody to tell us how they are. It's just a formality. You know, courtesy, you say, how are you? But there are people who ask you, how are you? And you can see on their face and in their whole manner that they really want to know how you are. And those people are really special to us. And those are the people that we have to acknowledge that. It's really a product of what the psychologists call deep listening. You know, people talk, and it's just like, okay, just bounces off of us. But deep listening to somebody, when we ask them, you know, how are you, and to stop, and to really look at them and to know there's a person behind that face, there's a person with feelings, and to really take the time out to deep listen. And that's true of our children. You know, our children come in and they want some time. I was just reading someplace about childhood emotional neglect. CEN it's called. Childhood emotional neglect. Now we can't get paranoid about this, but what it is, you know, children in their formative years who didn't have parents who would really let them share their emotions, and how they have to deal with that later in life, how they suffer from that, the fact that they didn't have a parent who would really, really listen to them. CEN, childhood emotional neglect. And it makes life much more difficult at the adult stage if somebody doesn't have that in their life. So every morning, spend a few minutes jotting down, I will let go of this, I am grateful for that, I will focus on such and such. They suggest taking a small notebook along with us. And when somebody happens along or something happens that we're grateful for, to jot down what it is that we're grateful for. All this will help us cultivate gratitude. Of course, cultivating gratitude is, it can be done, I don't know, I think I mentioned to you how excited we get our children. We tell our children, you know, life gets stressful, as you all know. We listen to people and you know, people tell us their concerns and the things that they're dealing with in life, and it can get heavy at times. Then we tell our children, you know what, as soon as one of your kids, the little ones, say something cute, we call them the chachmas, the little wise things that little kids will say. No matter where you are, if you're in England, if you're London, Manchester, if you're in Staten Island or Lakewood, wherever, call us, give us a call, and tell us the cute things that your children said. And they do that. They do that on a regular basis. And it gives us such a lift. I remember one thing that my daughter lived in Yerushalayim just till recently, and she has these adorable little kids who are basically more Israeli than anything else, and they came for Pesach, and of course, they're so delightful. So I said to Avrami, who was maybe 3 years old, I said to him, Avrami, I don't have a little boy. All my boys are grown up. They don't live with me. Could you please come and stay with me? Can you be my little boy? And he said to me, Bobby, I can't stay. He says, Mashiach is coming soon to Yerushalayim. So I can't stay here with you. I love you. He said, make sure to say, I love you very much, but I can't stay. Mashiach is coming soon. I got to get back there. Mashiach is going to come. So these, they're so precious, they're so darling, and it gives you such a lift. And it's right at our beck and call. So I would suggest that you tell your family that they should call when they have the chachmas of the children. The other thing that could foster and cultivate gratitude is reframing our situations. Viktor Frankl came up with the term of reframing, that we have situations in our lives that are a certain way, and you can look at them in a negative way, but then you can reframe them and see them in a positive way. Viktor Frankl wrote a work called logotherapy, and he was in Auschwitz. And he didn't know at the time, actually, while he was in Auschwitz, they separated the men and the women. He thought his wife was probably still alive at the time, that he was thinking about her morning and night. They had already killed her. Anyway, but he said that reframing, like thinking about things a certain way, he said he walked around to all the prisoners in the camp, and he said to them, instead of focusing on the horrors of what's going on here, concentrate on what you want to do when you get out of here. He said, it's not what you expect of life, but what life expects of you. So he said, you have all these talents. If you're a writer, think about the book you're going to write. He said he himself was thinking how he's going to go back to his university position, and he's going to teach about the mentality of the prisoners and the mentality of the brutal Nazis, that he's going to analyze that and teach at a university. And just thinking about what he was going to do in the future kept him going. So reframing, instead of concentrating on the horrors, he reframed his entire condition such that he was able to make it through. And he was trying to teach all of the, prisoners there to do the same. And I don't know if I share this with you, but it's one of my absolutely favorite anecdotes, one of reframing. So when I grew up in our neighborhood, I grew up in Bensonhurst in New York, and we had an older couple, Zisela and Mendelshee. This older couple, they never had children. They were this regal, darling couple, and everybody loved them. And everybody knew their daily schedule. And they did the same thing every day. They would take a walk, arm in arm. Just the most, at 80, 90 years old, whatever they were, the most romantic couple you could ever imagine. Then, Mendelshee passed away. And we went to pay a sugar call to Zisela, and it wasn't terribly tactful. I was young, I was a teenager, and I looked at this beautiful Zisela, and I said to Zisela, all these years you took care of Mendelshee. Now Mendelshee's gone. So what do you do all day? Not a very tactful question, but in any case, she looked at me, and her face broke out in this beautiful smile, and she said to me, "Oh, God is so good to me. he makes me lose something in the morning, and then I spend the whole day looking for it. God is so good to me. God is so good to me. I can tell you that when I lose something in the morning and I have to spend time looking for it, I'm not thinking about God is so good to me. I have it totally, but that's reframing. She's looking at her life and saying, Baruch Hashem. And we have, those of us who come from Milwaukee know this fabulous young woman who is struggling and battling a very bad disease. And when I called her and to see how she's doing, you know, the last set of treatments didn't work. And she was telling me about that. And then she works for a wonderful rabbi who is also battling the same disease. So she says to me, and you know, she sounds upbeat. Now, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. And how are you feeling? And then she says to me, she says, you know, the rabbi that I work for and myself, she says about herself, we're so fortunate, she says, because we know that the end is imminent. We know it's going to happen any day now. And she says that gives us the time and the wherewithal to put our affairs in order. It's not going to happen suddenly. We're going to be prepared. Whatever we need to do, we're going to do. We are so fortunate. And I'm thinking, my gosh, reframing, is that, it's so unbelievable. I got on the phone, I just cried and cried, and it's not, you know, to be able to do that, the koyach of a person. They say a mensch is starker wie Asen, and schwacher wie a Flieg. That's a Yiddish expression. It's a mensch, it means a person is stronger than iron and weaker than a fly. On one hand, physically, what are we? You know, flesh and blood. But there's a spirit, a resilience within a person, or a person is starker wie Eisen, stronger than iron. So this is what I experience with these people who are able to reframe situations. Thornton Wilder said, we can only be said to be alive in those moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures. We are only said to be alive in those moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures. Now go a step further and we acknowledge those treasures and acknowledge the people in our lives who are treasures. And everybody has people like that. So I think unless anybody has something to comment or question about this area of gratitude, then we will move on. Anybody? Yes.
It's a good word I heard from, at that time she was an old lady. Now she probably she was closing a business which had been in business.
Can you hear back there? Can you speak a little louder?
A woman who was older than I at the time, told me something which sticks with me more and more these days, all as time is going. When I asked her, she was selling a business that was in the family for 3 generations. And it was hard, not for the money, not for the resettlement, but just the fact that the family procedures and history is now going to be cut off. And when I asked her how she felt about that, maybe it wasn't so tactful, but it really touched me in a way. She said, just think, you regret the things you did not do more than you regret the things that you did.
Uh-huh.
So that brought the history of what she could have, would have, should have done, didn't do, and that not having done, it's like you're getting ready for the next stage.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so then let's go on and talk about the first brachas we say in the morning after Moda'ani. Then we have the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem Malach Olam, Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al netilas yadayim. We also say that bracha before we wash for bread in the morning. So you would imagine that what this bracha means is, because we say when we wash our hands, al netilas yadayim, you would think that it would mean washing my hand. You commanded me before I eat bread to wash my hands. But the fact is that that's not what it means. How would we say it if we wanted to say, wash my hands? Rechitas yadayim. Right, it would say rechit. What's netilas yadayim? What is netila? What? That's right, raise up our hands. And here there's a wonderful understanding of what that means. What would you imagine if I say, blessed are you, Hashem, who has commanded me to lift up my hands? How does that strike you? What do you think we're saying?
You are the creator. You are the one.
Oh, you said you're lifting your hands to Rebbetzin Feige, to God? And okay. But what it really means is that I am now lifting up my hands. And since it's the first bracha of the brachas we're making at the beginning of the day, what we're really saying is, Rebbetzin Feige, whatever I'm lifting up my hands, whatever I am going to do with these hands, whatever behaviors, whatever actions I will take throughout the day, I want them to be of an uplifted nature. I'm lifting up my hands. Whatever comes out of these hands, I want to be of an uplifted nature. I want it lifted up to you in service to you. So this is the bracha we make early in the first thing in the morning. Whatever I'm going to do now, I'm going to cook, and I'm going to bake, and I'm going to interact with friends, and whatever. Al netilas yadayim. I just dedicate these hands to doing that which is purposeful and that which is in service to you. So that's that first bracha. So when you say the bracha al netilas yadayim, even notice that some people, when they wash their hands before the motzi, that they'll first lift their hands up. As they're washing their hands, they'll wash their hands, lift up their hands, and make the bracha. Because again, they're acting out what they are saying. My hands are dedicated to you. Everything I do is dedicated to you. Okay, then we make this a wonderful bracha, which is ashayotza, after a person uses the facilities. So we make a bracha, which is ashayotza res hadam b'chachma. Blessed are you, Hashem. I'm reading the translation here. Who has sanctified. This is blessed are you, Hashem, King of the universe, who fashioned man with wisdom and created within him many openings and many cavities. It is obvious and known before your throne of glory that if but one were to be ruptured, or but one of them were to be blocked, it would be impossible to survive and to stand before you. Blessed are you, Hashem, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously. And it is a wonderful, wonderful bracha. We thank Hashem for some people aren't familiar with the way we live life, and there is no mundane in Jewish life. Everything is spiritual. There isn't anything in our lives that we can't see in a spiritual manner. So when Baruch Hashem, the body functions, and only those who have had occasion, chas v'shalom, to be in a position where the body doesn't function, appreciates this thoroughly and completely. If there's any part of our body that's supposed to be closed and opens up, and any part that's open and closes, what terrible shape we're in. So to say this bracha, then some of us are fortunate when you get older, that I think you're supposed to say 100 brachas a day. I think all my brachas are the ashayota. I definitely say at least 100 of these brachas a day. So if it's hard for me to remember any other bracha, I can tell you this one for sure. I got down cold. But Baruch Hashem, it's something to really, really be grateful for. A young man came from New York to they take turns. So it was his shift, Yitzchak was here. He came here right after he suffered a kidney stone. He had this kidney, he was describing for us what the terrible, terrible pain that he had in trying to pass this kidney stone, how painful that was. And, until somebody experiences that, they don't even appreciate what that's all about. And, and we end this by saying, the last words of it are, Rofei chol basar mafli lasos, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously. Okay, on the level, all of it that I wanted to tell you is everything that all the brachas, we barely scratch the surface here of what you can learn about brachas. It's impossible. We could spend umpteen sessions on just one bracha. And the understanding of this is pardes. You know what a pardes is? An orchard, right. Now there is the orchard of Torah. And what that means is that Torah, everything in Torah, can be understood on so many levels. The K stands for Pshat. Pshat means the literal understanding, just translation of the words, and it's Pshat. The Resh stands for Remez, which means what it hints at. And the Dalet stands for Drash, what you can, a deeper understanding of some of the things that we can arrive at through this bracha. And Sod means what? Secret. And what that really refers to is Kabbalistic understandings, like the mysterious, the mystical is the word, the mystical understanding. So everything in Torah can be understood on all of these levels. Obviously, we start with trying to understand the pshat, the meaning of words, and of course there's a lot to appreciate just in that. But then you go into all of these other levels. Level upon level. So, on a very pshat level, what we're saying here at the end of the bracha is, Rofei chol basar, just as the translation is, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously. On a deeper level, what we're being told here, what we're thanking God for is, what is this wondrous thing that is happening here? What's the wondrous thing that's happening with when we watch our bodies function as they should? What's wondrous about that? Yes?
That the holy spiritual neshama is staying connected to the goof, which is Hato.
Excellent. What we're being told here is that we have actually two opposites that coexist. In other words, we have this body which has all of these mundane needs, and here we're talking about being able to use facilities, and we have a neshama in the same body. How do you have a neshama, this exalted soul that's a piece and a vestige of God Himself, in a body that has all of these very mundane, kind of needs? How do they coexist? And that's really the wondrous thing about it. And really, what's happening here is that the wondrous way, what happens when we go to the bathroom? What happens is that the body filters out that which it doesn't need. And it's really, when you look at it, these two opposites coexisting, spiritual and physical, that what it speaks to is that it mirrors the function of the neshama. The neshama helps us identify and keep those things which are beneficial to ourselves and discard those things which are not. That's why we have a neshama. A neshama is kind of our ethical and moral barometer that indicates what it is that we should do, not do, think, not think, speak, not speak, all those things. It's our ethical and moral barometer, and the body mirrors that. When we look at the body, and we're so grateful for the fact that it filters out that which is, injurious, if it would stay, if our body wouldn't function, if the kidney wouldn't filter out, and then whatever. We know what, chas v'shalom, what happens when that isn't the case. It mirrors the function of the neshama. So we look at our bodies, and it should give us pause, and we should think for a minute, yes, the body is doing this, and its counterpart, the neshama, is doing the same thing for me on a moment-to-moment basis. If I hear the quiet, soft voice of the neshama within me, when I'm about to do something, the neshama says, hold it. This isn't something you should be doing. This is something you should be discarding. Discard this. That belongs, so to speak, in the toilet. That's where that belongs. It doesn't belong in your repertoire of behavior. So these are the two things that coexist together, and that's why you say this wondrous thing that you do, that both of these, the body and the soul, can coexist. Then we go on and we talk about, now in some Sidurim, the brachas come first, and then we get to Matovu and Adon Olam. Now in Adon Olam, it's so wonderful. What is Adon Olam? What does that mean, Adon Olam?
He's the boss.
What? He's the boss. Adon Olam, right? Master of the world. And what is the whole, the Tefilla of Adon Olam? It talks about the wondrous nature of this master of the world, master of the universe. He reigned before any form was created, at the time when his will brought all into being. Then as king was his name proclaimed. After all has ceased to be, he, the awesome one, will reign alone. It is he who was, he who is, and he who shall remain in splendor. He is one. There is no second to compare to him, to declare as his equal. Without beginning, without conclusion, he is the power and dominion. He is my God, my living Redeemer, rock of my pain in time of distress. He is my banner, a refuge to me, the portion in my cup on the day I call. Into his hand I shall entrust my spirit when I go to sleep, and I shall awaken. When my spirit, with my spirit shall my body remain. Hashem is with me, I shall not fear. What strikes you about this? If you were listening carefully, what strikes you about this tefillah? Something that should make us feel very good.
It switches and it becomes personal.
Exactly. First we talk about the grandeur and the majesty of this being who was, is, and always will be, who is in charge of everything. And even when the world won't be anymore, he will be. He was here before the world, and all of his greatness. And then it switches to, you know what? This is V'hu Keli. You know, this great being, he is my God. He is my personal God. He is my living Redeemer, rock of my pain in time of distress. He is my banner, a refuge for me, the portion in my cup on the day I call. Into his hand I shall entrust my spirit when I go to sleep, and I shall awaken. With my spirit shall my body remain. Hashem is with me, I shall not fear. So this is the magnificent. We stop to think about what we're saying, and here we are, we talk about this awesome being, and then we say, you know, he's an awesome being, but you know what? He's my daddy. He's my daddy. He's my daddy in heaven. He cares about me. That's why I feel safe in trusting my soul to him every night. I feel safe. I know that if it's my best interest, he will return my soul to me the next day. He cares about me. He loves me. You know, they tell a wonderful anecdote about a little boy who was marching around on the shore, and people said to him, you know, what are you waiting for? He said, I'm waiting for that ship over there. That was at the other end of the ocean. He says, I'm waiting for that ship to come. That ship's going to come. It's going to pick me up. And they said to him, you know, darling child, foolish child, do you see how far away that ship is? That ship isn't coming. It's going to come, and you know, and the ship can't even see you. And even if it comes closer, that captain isn't going to stop everything and come and get you. He has a whole huge ship of people to take care of. You think he's going to stop and just come here to get you? Don't be silly, darling child. Go home, go home. And he just kept marching and marching back and forth. And so many people tried talking to him, and to no avail. He said, no, I know the ship is coming here, and he's going to pick me up and take me where I need to go. And finally, after talking to so many people talking to him, they said to him, why in the world, darling child, would you think that the captain, who's in charge of a huge ship, is going to make this trek from the other end of the ocean to come and get you? He says, I'll tell you why. Because the captain of the ship is my daddy. And my daddy isn't going to forsake me. And this is really what we're saying in this Tefilla, in Adon Olam. This is the captain of the whole world. And he runs a big operation, so to speak. But you know what? He's my daddy. And he cares about me personally, no matter how many concerns he has. He's my daddy. So this is when we say it in the future, and you get to the point for who Kaylee, V'chai, Goali, we should pause for a minute. And we should say, wow, my daddy. My daddy is there for me in every which way. Okay, so then we had the bracha of Netilas Yadayim and Asher Yotza. And then we have the Tefillah of, and this is a wonderful, wonderful tefillah, and I think everybody could relate to it. We talk about the fact, blessed are you, Hashem, who commanded us in your mitzvahs and commanded us to la'asok b'divrei Torah. We translated, let's see how to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. Now, one of the interesting comments of our sages is why it uses the word la'asok. What does the word la'asok mean? What? Be involved. But what else is it used? Asakim. What are asakim? Work or business, right? Asakim are like business. So they say, it doesn't say in here, Lilmo Torah, you commanded us to study Torah. It says asok, to be involved in Torah like in a business. And one of the commentaries notes, he says that when we learn Torah, and some people misunderstand, you know, the significance of learning Torah, and some people call it as a bank kvetcha. You know, did you hear that? The expression, person who's sitting and learning Torah, bank kvetcha means he kvetches the bank. What did he? Oh, right, he's what? He's like on the bench, he's kvetching the bench. He's whatever. Now the Yiddish don't know it. Yiddish doesn't translate that well into English oftentimes. In any case, it's not terribly significant. So it says la'asok b'divrei Torah, to be involved. Just think about a business. What do you get involved in the business? Because the hope is, And what we go into it for is for what? For profit, right? We expect that if we're going to go into business, we'll become successful and it will be profitable. And he says that's what when we learn Torah, and we're involved in the study of Torah, that we should look at it as, wow, this is going to be a profitable thing. We're going to gain more than we gain in business ventures. But this is a business venture of the ultimate nature. So we talk about it as la'asok b'divrei Torah. And then he goes on to say, and this is what everybody will relate to, V'harevna Hashem Elokeinu es divrei Torasecha. Hashem, please sweeten the words of Torah in our mouth and in the mouth of your people, the children of Israel. May we and our offspring and the offspring of your people, the house of Israel, all of us, know your name and study your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Hashem, who teaches Torah to his people Israel. It's a wonderful bracha because all of us, our children, ourselves, because we are Jewish, in one way or another we will study Torah. Whether we study it in English, or we study it in Hebrew, whatever it is, we're involved in the study of Torah. Whether we read it in a magazine, we read nice articles in a magazine that relate to our people, whatever it is. All Torah has many shapes and forms. But what we're saying here is, you know what, Hashem, make it sweet for us. Many of us do it as the discharging of an obligation. I have to do it after all, I have to daven and I have to study Torah because I'm Jewish. But it's more in a sense of obligation. And we say to Hashem, please Hashem, make it sweet for us. I want to not only study, but I want to taste its sweetness. I want it to be sweet for me. And counseling and all I've heard here, there, and everywhere, people come in and talk to us about primarily their children, and they say, you know what, he goes through the motions. He does what he needs to do, but you know what, he's not savoring it. He's not enjoying it. He doesn't get any special pleasure out of it. He doesn't relate to it like this is really something he relishes. So this is obviously the sages understood that this was one of the occupational hazards. So they made this tefillah that says, Hashem, please make it sweet. Make it sweet for us, that we should not only learn, but that we should savor its taste. Not only that on one level, on another level what we're saying is, Rabbi Shalom, since I am one of your children and a representative of Torah, that's what each and every one of us are. We walk down the street and the way that we comport ourselves, the way we behave, we are a reflection on the Jewish people. We all know that as soon as a big scandal breaks, and somebody has done whatever, this, what was his name? Madoff, right, Madoff. And, it wasn't a nice parasha for us because he was Jewish. And every time such a story breaks, we say, oh, please, let him not be Jewish. Let him not be Jewish. Because whatever one of us does reflects on all of us. So what we're saying, V'harevna, make it sweet. For those who study Torah, let us all present ourselves to the world in such a way that we will be a Kiddush Hashem, that we will reflect well on your Torah and reflect well on you. So it's a double kind of tefillah, of supplication to Hashem. We want it to be sweet for us, we want to savor its taste, but also let what we are be sweet to others, that the way we present ourselves to the world. Then the next bracha is, Asher bachar bani mikol ha'amim. Hashem, you chose us among all the nations. Baruch atah Hashem nosei haTorah. You are the giver of the Torah. And this is the bracha that people say when they're called up for an aliyah. And it's also the bracha we say every morning. Now here a question is asked. With every other blessing that we make. So, if I had this morning, what did I have this morning? I had some yogurt. I had yogurt this morning, and a banana, yogurt and banana. Okay, I made a bracha. I made the borei pri adama on the banana, and I made shakol on the yogurt. Then, the concluding blessing was borei nefashos, right? I concluded it. If I come home now, and I go get myself a banana and a yogurt, I have to say those brachas again. I'm going to eat another banana again. I will make borei pri adama. I'm going to have a yogurt. I'll make a shahada. The interesting thing is, I need a little variety. I might buy it. That's But aside from that, the interesting thing is in this bracha, when we say no saying HaTorah, we make this blessing in the morning. Thank you, Hashem, for giving us the Torah, and the men will say it on the bima when they get an aliyah. Even if they take a break, like afterwards, you go home, they go home, and you eat a suda, you eat a meal. Or I came here now, we came to be here together. If I made this bracha in the morning, and then I come back home, and we study Torah, right, we're learning, and I made that bracha in the morning, I do not repeat that bracha at all, neither do the men. They learn Torah in the morning, then they'll come home for breakfast, then they go back and learn some more Torah. They don't repeat the bracha. No, say not Torah. It's the only blessing that isn't repeated. You just go by the inertia, by the energy of that bracha for the rest of the day. Why? Why is that? Baruch Hashem, you don't repeat it. No, you do. You say Asher Yatzar. You say Asher Yatzar every time. You say Al Netilas Yadayim every time you're going to wash your hair. No, the Pokeach Ivrim, but I'm not doing anything specific. Here I'm learning. I'm doing an act. All the other actions I repeat. If I'm going to eat, I repeat. If I'm going to go to the bathroom, I repeat. So why not, when I'm going to learn Torah, why don't I repeat that lesson? Yes.
It's meant to be a continual activity, whatever you do in the day is covered. You're not stopping when you're shopping, when you're eating. Still Torah.
Excellent. That's very good. Jackie says that when it's continuous, because whatever I'm doing for the whole day, no matter what the activity is, it's all subsumed under No Senai Torah. It's all with Torah in mind. It's all and falls into the category of Torah because I am living by Torah. So then it's all, I don't have to repeat that bracha. And Rabbi Soloveitchik gives a wonderful mashal for this, a wonderful parable. He says that if there's a mother who, like many of you that I've met, you work out of the home. So you have your computer business, or you have whatever, graphic arts, whatever it is, you work out of the home. And you have a little baby, you have a little child, and you take that little child, and you put the child out on the merpeset, or in America we have backyards. We don't have merpeset so much, a backyard. You put the baby in the backyard, in the sandbox, or on the swing, and you're at the computer, working your thing, doing your work. Every few minutes, your eyes dart to the window that's overlooking the backyard or the merpeset to check to see how the child is doing. Chas v'shalom, did the child fall? Did the child hurt itself? Is it, it's having a good time? Is the child smiling? Whatever. So he says, what is your main focus? Is it the computer or is it the child? If you would ask the mother, what is your main focus? What are you most concerned about? Are you concerned about your work or are you concerned about your child? I don't think there's any mother that will say, I'm really concerned about my computer. Every mother will say, first and foremost, of course, it's the well-being of my child. That's why I'm looking out there, make sure the child's okay. So Rabbi Soloveitchik says that's the story here. When we say no Simchat Torah, we do tons, a myriad of other things. We go out, we eat, we drink, we do business, whatever. We're, in the world. But our focus, what drives our life is Torah. What drives our life is allegiance to the Rebbeinu Shalom, to our Creator. So we can do anything, any number of things, but it's no Simchat Torah, and I don't have to repeat that bracha because it's constantly on my mind, because it's the place from which everything flows. So I don't have to repeat it. Okay, so let's see where we want to go. We want to go from here. Okay, I want to just tell you something, because meantime you could be using it, even though I'm jumping ahead. We'll have to go back. There is a Tefilla in Shemona Esrei of Shema Koleinu. Shema Koleinu is a Tefilla where we say, Shema Koleinu Hashem Elokeinu. Let's see. I will find it. Shema Koleinu Hashem Elokeinu. All right, Shema Koleinu Hashem Elokeinu. Hear our voice, Hashem, our God. Pity and be compassionate to us. Mostly compassionate. Pity is not such a good word. And accept with compassion and favor our prayer. For you are God, who hears prayers and entreaties from before yourself, our King. Do not turn us away empty-handed. Now it's interesting. They say that in everything, when you get a contract, they tell you, read the fine print on the contract, because people sell you something and they don't bother to tell you what's in the fine print. Well, in the fine print, which I didn't really notice, I didn't really pay attention to so much, but I think one of my sons brought it to my attention. And so, in this tefillah, when you say Shema Koleinu, there is a clause here. You can say, Hashem, Hashem, I have inadvertently sinned. I've done things that were inappropriate, and be specific. There's room here to be specific about something that I'm sorry that I did this past day. Maybe I said something hurtful to somebody. Maybe I delivered myself of a piece of gossip. Maybe whatever it is, I'm aware that I know I'm not feeling good, whatever it is that I did. We can insert it right here in this tefillah in Shemona Esrei of Shema Koleinu. And we ask Hashem to clear our slate so that we can go on. And I was thinking, this is so wonderful. We don't have to carry over into the next day something we feel badly about. We could just say it right here. And it reminded me the fact that I saw, studies or people who were trying to help others in their housekeeping abilities. So some people are very, very clear about what has to be done in order to keep a house functioning, clean, together, organized. Other people are more challenged in that direction. So this person was giving tips, and it's a very good tip. The tip was that as you move through the day, moment to moment, if you notice something, like here's something on the floor, you can do one of two things. You could say, I'm going to be doing this. Tomorrow the cleaning woman comes. Maybe next year the cleaning woman comes. But whatever, I don't have to deal with this now. I'll just, leave it for that time. And they said that it's so it makes things so much more complicated. They said you want to get a handle on being able to keep things together. When you notice something, pick it up. Pick it up, put it in its place. It's one little thing. Pick it up, put it in its place. There's a spot on the floor. Of course, here with the floors you have here are not big challenge. Could be a full-time job. But you see a spot, bend down, have a shmata ready, and pick up what? Clean as you go, right? Clean as you go. That's good. You wipe it up as you go along. There's something on the counter, put it where it belongs. It's not going to make the whole place, clean up the whole place, but it doesn't let things get out of hand. And another thing that I have is, I have this pot that the Rebbetzin Feige was kind enough for coffee in the morning, hot water. So I get up in the morning, and I don't like the fact that it has all these sediments at the bottom. It's sitting there, the water's sitting there, aluminum, whatever. And so I don't want to drink that water. So somebody had told me what you do is that you get vinegar. And you boil up first the pot with a little vinegar. You pour that water out, and then you put in, and you don't have to deal with yesterday's garbage, yesterday's sediments. And I was thinking, that is exactly what's happening here on a spiritual level. Why do I have to carry over the spiritual sediments from one day to the next? Or why can't I just pick up whatever is there? Whatever is getting in the way of my spiritual togetherness, of my, I can take care of it as I go. So this tefillah provides that. Just every day I say Shema Kol and I say, Hashem, I'm so sorry. This is what I did, and I hope those of you who don't say Shema Esrei, who aren't in a position to say it, you have little kids or you haven't gotten there yet, you could say it on your own. You don't have to do it as part of Shema Esrei. But just say, okay, I have this stuff from yesterday, I don't want to carry it over into today. I want to do my spiritual house cleaning. I want to get rid of these spiritual, inappropriate behaviors so that I can start the day anew. So it's a wonderful thing because you feel cleansed. You feel good. You're starting the day anew, not bringing over the yesterday's stuff. So that's the tefillah of Shema Kolin. And just maybe I'll read this to you because I liked it. My daughter, I have a daughter, Hanumalka. I spoke to you about her before. She's a delightful person who's really, really, really funny. And oftentimes when I walk down the street with her, she will say the things, whatever we always told her when she was a little girl. Hanumalka, before you speak, ask yourself the question, is this important to say? Like she was 3 years old. She didn't talk till she was 3 and then she never stopped after that. So we said, think for a minute, ask yourself, do I really need to say this? Is it important? So after that, she would say whatever came into her anyway, and she'd say, was that important? This is how successful our approach was. So this is Hanumalka, and now she's Baruch Hashem, a grandmother, and nothing has changed. She has basically no filter between her head and her mouth. And she's refreshingly honest, and she's just absolutely delightful. Of course, this delightful child, oftentimes I'm walking with her and I want to pretend she's not mine, but she is really, really, she's really very special. So why did I tell you? Oh, so at one point she also, because she's so upfront and she's so accessible, she's been in great demand as a speaker. In her schools, PTA and such. 5 minutes before she walks out the door, she'll call me up and she'll say, Ma, I have to speak. What should I say? She's got one foot out the door. So I said, what's the topic? She told me the topic. I said, okay, this is what you could say, and this is the Devar Torah, and she doesn't have to speak for that long. And then I'll tell her, like a nice little story or whatever. So afterwards she'll call me up, and I said, so how to go, Hanumalka? She says, they loved me, they asked me to come back, whatever. And which was predictable because she's funny and she's easy to listen to. In any case, so she said that she was giving over the Dvar Torah, and then she told a story. At the end of that, she said, I don't really know how the story fits in with my Dvar Torah, what I'm telling you. But you know what, guys? You figure it out. So this is her thing. It doesn't get nonplussed, nothing. Go on, you figure it out. So this is what I'm going to tell you now. I don't know how this fits into what I'm telling you, but you guys, you figure it out. But this was more along the lines of, gratitude and seeing things, noticing things. So this is really, Shlomo Carlebach said this. He said, the more real a thing is, the less you can see it. After you reach the level where you see all those things which are not to be seen, then you open your eyes and everything is clear to you, and it feels like you saw it all the time. To love someone is the deepest thing in the world, but you can't prove it. You can't put your finger on it, but it's the most real thing in the world. God is the utmost real thing in the world, and you can't see him. But after you don't see him, you see him. Then you can see him everywhere, in every flower, in every cloud, in every little stone, in every candle. When we say the Shema, God is one, we close our eyes, because first, we don't see God. We're blind, we just believe. But then we open our eyes and it is so clear. He's always there. Everybody likes God to do miracles, but the big question is, are you a miracle? If you are living on the level of miracles, if you trust in God on the level of a miracle, then miracles happen to you. If you are not living in life on that level, then miracles don't happen to you. So, that's it. I leave you with that. Oh my gosh, it's late. Okay. We'll try to be on time next week. It's our last class. So if there are any things that are outstanding in your mind, you can bring them up next week, and we'll continue. We have all the other brachas. Maybe we'll cover some of them.